Thank you, J-Max, for reminding us it is the holidays.
Doing my best.
Welcome to the top 10 films of 2010.
Woo! Yeah.
Wade Major, Mark Kaiser. Here we are in the streaming garage where producer Mike produces like all these high-quality, new tech HD shows.
Yeah.
He's got World of Warcraft. He's got Stripped Down Live. He's got the football thing. What's that thing called?
Stupid for Fantasy Football?
Stupid for Fantasy Football.
You guys are LA Film Critics
Yes,
Association members?
we are members of the LA Film Critics.
For the viewers.
Mike before the show says to me, talk about HD, talk about Streaming Garage, talk about... I may not do it in the order he wants.
These people may be new to our show since it's a best of. They may not know that we're on live every Thursday night, 8 p.m. We are now up for a Clicker Live Award. We are considered one of the best live production entertainment networks in the world.
Along with the White House live feed.
Yes, so maybe they don't know what Stupid for Movies is about. And
That's right.
And now they do. So go to clicker.com and vote for us for best live web show.
Yes.
Because we are up against, like, literally the White House.
Katie Couric, CBS,
And,
NBC,
and Katie Couric. What's that about? Okay, now that's all exciting and good. The fact that Wade and I are members of the LA Film Critics Association, the fact that we're at the Streaming Garage, lots of good shows, clicker.com, vote for us for best new live web show. However, here's the thing, Wade. This year, I saw about 150 movies. This year, you saw...
200 and something.
Okay. It all comes down to this.
Yeah.
The best of 2010. Now, here's what's going to happen.
No particular order.
No particular order.
Except for...
the last one.
The last one.
So we're going to start with, now, by the way, Wade and I may not agree with each other's. I'm going to say one, he may not agree. He's going to say one, I may not agree. The only one we know we definitely agree on is the last one.
Yep, which is amazing. It doesn't always happen that way.
That is very true.
So this is a rare moment.
So let us start with my first pick, which is The Social Network. Now, The Social Network, of course, is directed by David Fincher, written by Aaron Sorkin, and it is the story of Facebook. I don't need to remind you of that. And here's what I liked about this movie, and I disliked very, very little about the movie. In fact, I disliked nothing about the movie. What I liked about it is that it captured a moment in time. It captured the lightning in a bottle that is so very hard to do, and it did that mainly because of Aaron Sorkin's script. It is a literate script. It is a script that deals with history and characters in a dynamic way. It's also, by the way, which people don't give it credit for, very well edited. Because when you have a script that is that bulky, with that much dialogue, it can really weigh itself down unless you're constantly moving. So a lot of that is Fincher, and a lot of that is the editing. And I have to say, someone who's not getting enough credit for the success of the film is Jesse Eisenberg, who normally I do not like that kid. But in this, he was great. In fact, when we voted at the LA Film Critics Association Awards, I kind of gave him some props because I think he's just terrific. And all the performances are good. I love how it just captured that. You feel you were inside history as it happened. It had that electricity.
I don't disagree with anything you said. I just don't think it makes it a top 10 film for me. I think my feeling is it's a very good film. It's a great script. It's as well directed as I think it can be, given that it is a very, very dialogue-heavy script. It just feels like this should be what we expect a good studio film to be. This should be the baseline. This should not be the best film of the year. This should be your average good studio movie. And I think the fact that everyone loves this film as much as they do is indicative of how bad most studio films have gotten. That the one that should be just an average, really decent studio film is now considered the best of the year. So, I mean, I like the film. I like it a lot. I think everything about it is really spot on, but it's just not, it didn't blow my mind.
Well, you know, before we get on to the next film, which is Wade's first choice for Best of 2010, is that I like the fact that the film was not just a dry history lesson.
True.
It made everything just very dynamic, and it moved.
It did what Sorkin did on The West Wing, which is he took circumstances that would ordinarily be dry and academic and inaccessible, and he somehow invested it with drama and excitement and suspense and urgency. And he does that very, very well. He somehow knows how to navigate otherwise inaccessible environments and narratives and really, really plug you in. And he did that beautifully here.
And so I like the film a lot. One of my favorite of the year. Wade, what is your first pick?
My first pick today is Ajami, which is it was nominated last year for Best Foreign Language Film in the Oscars. Now, Ajami was eligible for the Oscars last year only in that category because it was released in the country of origin during a certain time window. Now, a lot of films, a lot of foreign films over the last 50 or so years have managed to get Oscar nominations in 2 successive years because Ajami's domestic release was this year. It is now eligible in all the other Academy Award categories for this year. It probably will not get nominated in any of them because it's not that kind of film. But this is actually co-directed by 2 guys, one Israeli, one of them Palestinian, a Palestinian Christian and an Israeli Jew, who they met at a film festival years ago and decided to make a very experimental film involving scripted scenes, improvised scenes. It's kind of like an Arab-Israeli crash. It's set in this one neighborhood in Israel, which is known for its incredible religious and cultural diversity, as well as all of the friction that that engenders. And it is all of these interlocking stories set in this particular very volatile area, and it goes back and forth in time. It's very tricky, very, very cleverly put together, and ultimately incredibly powerful. And it speaks to, obviously, the situation there in that very tempestuous part of the world, but it also could be any other urban environment where you have all of these conflicting and clashing interests and concerns. I think it's an amazing film. I think it's better than Crash, and Crash was my favorite film of that year. Of 2005, wasn't it? 2005.
That long ago.
So, wow, 5 years ago, Crash. But Ajami is just a tremendous movie in every respect, an experimental film and a real triumph.
I think Ajami is just great. I love it too. It's just a terrific film, but it has a little bit of what The Social Network has in a sense, in that you feel like you're living in the middle of history, and you're in this neighborhood, and violence can happen at any time, and characters can come and go, live and die at any time. And it just has that sense of urgency, and it's such a great script, and it's very ground level direction.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of sweeping epic shots.
No.
He's in the houses. He's going through the halls.
Fly on the wall.
Fly on the wall stuff.
Yeah.
And I think Ajami is just a terrific film.
It's a great film.
So that's Ajami. So my next one, now again, I don't know if Wade likes these films. Maybe he hates them. If he hates them, he's stupid. But I'm saying I like them.
If he hates them, I want to hear about it.
What?
If he hates them, if he hates your picks, you can say that. And if you hate his picks, you can say that.
Well, I love Ajami.
So far, you agree. Yeah.
I love Ajami. But my next pick, I don't even know what Wade thinks of, Winter's Bone. Now, Winter's Bone is one of my favorite films of the year. And Winter's Bone was directed by Deborah Granick, and it stars Jennifer Lawrence. Both of them just breakout talents thanks to this film. And the movie's about Jennifer Lawrence plays a woman living in the Ozarks, and essentially she has to find her father, who is a criminal, who's run away. Lord knows where this guy is. She's got to find his father by a certain date, or she loses her home. Now again, she lives in the Ozarks with her siblings. She's basically taking care of the family herself. So if she loses this house, she loses everything. So she's got to find her father, and there is a bit of a Heart of Darkness sense of it too, as she sort of gets to meet the other people in her father's life and gets to learn what her father was really like. And what's especially remarkable about the film is that it is incredibly authentic looking. I mean, literally, John Hawkes, who
Plays the uncle.
And he got a lot of love from the LA Film Critics Association when we voted last week. Literally, this guy and a lot of the people in this film, they look like Deborah Granick just found them there. She just found them there. You know, that's how authentic the actors look. That's how authentic the film looks. It has this very depressing, wintry feel to it. Jennifer Lawrence is just exceptional in it, and it really is one of the best films of the year. And by the way, it's already on Blu-ray and DVD, so you can rent it.
I agree completely. I think Winter's Bone is an outstanding film. It was one of the first films of the year that sort of felt like, wow, this is going to be remembered when Oscar season comes around. Because it wasn't, it was released, in June or...
Early in the year,
May.
Early for Oscars, early.
Really early, but it got a lot of love at Sundance, and everything about this movie it's exactly what you said. It feels as though they just stepped into another world when they went to the Ozarks. And it's a very dark and depressing movie. I mean, the fact that the entire economy of this rural area rests on meth, that everyone is cooking meth and selling meth, and that without this illicit drug, this already depressed economy, this already depressed area would just collapse into a ghost town. It puts a real burden on everyone in the film. I mean, they're all just barely keeping their heads above water, and this girl is, you know, she's like the one ethical figure there, the one that's the only one who's doing anything right, anything noble. There's a real powerful drama to it that is just you don't find in many other films. Deborah Granick is one hell of a filmmaker. She really is. She seems to only make movies with the word bone in the title. Her previous film was Down to the Bone, which sort of broke Vera Farmiga out, and Vera Farmiga won an LA Film Critic Best Actress for that. Yeah, it's a great film, and John Hawkes is amazing. What I love about his performance is that, you know, as we talked about on a previous show, you start out truly hating him, and you grow to love him. And that is such a difficult thing for an actor to do, because once an audience is committed on how they feel about you, very often they're not going to change their minds. And he really kind of wins you over by the end. It's very impressive.
It really is. So that's Winter's Bone. Now, Wade, what is your next best film of 2010?
My next choice is Mother and Child, which was written and directed by Rodrigo Garcia, who previously did a little film called 9 Lives. This is an absolutely devastatingly powerful movie that I think was actually released too early in the year. Unlike Winter's Bone, it has not necessarily been well remembered. Part of that is because Annette Bening also was in The Kids Are All Right, which has been getting a lot more critical acclaim recently, and I think people have forgotten that she was in this film earlier. Now, this is more of an ensemble film. It was produced by Alejandro González Iñárritu, who, as anyone knows, has done Babel and many other films like Amores Perros, which have these interlocking storylines, kind of like Ajami. And this is similar. This is about a diverse group of people, all of whom are connected through the idea of parenting. Now, 2 of the stories are very obviously connected. Annette Bening plays a woman who is she's aging, and she has all of these regrets about the child that she gave up for adoption many years earlier when she was a young unwed mother. And she bears that burden now, and she doesn't, it's kind of turned her into a very sour and bitter woman. Jimmy Smits is the guy who sort of tries to give her a new romance and drag her out of her shell. Connected to that is the story involving Naomi Watts, who is that daughter that she gave up for adoption, who is now a loveless, caustic user. She's an attorney, but in her romantic life, she uses men, she throws them around. She has, perhaps as a result of being an adopted child, she has a very negative attitude toward relationships in general. And those 2 stories, you wonder, are they going to intersect, and how are they going to intersect? And you don't really know, and the movie keeps you on edge in a really magnificent way. And then there are other stories that are all entwined in this. Samuel L. Jackson is in this as Naomi Watts' boss at one point. Amazing performance from him, one of the best things he's done in years. The movie was unfortunately released on Mother's Day, or the week of Mother's Day, for obvious reasons. They thought that they would get some kind of a Mother's Day boost to the box office, which didn't happen. And it wound up being kind of an early season art house release that didn't deliver for Sony Classics. I really wish they'd held on to it for later in the year. I think it would have gotten a lot more attention. But as it is, it's a tremendous movie. It is now out on DVD and Blu-ray, and you've got to check it out.
Yeah, you know what? You like this film a lot more than I did. Yeah. It would not have made my top 10, but I like it a lot.
It's really good.
And, you know, there's a moment in the film, as you say, you're waiting for these 2 particular characters to meet, and I won't say who they are. And what winds up really happening is so surprising and so brave.
Yeah.
You know, and again, when you rent the film, you'll see what I'm talking about, that once that happened, once those 2 characters, in a sense, converged, you realize you're watching a very brave and bold film.
Yeah.
And all the performances were very good. I really enjoyed the interaction between Annette Bening and Jimmy Smits.
It's terrific.
Because here you have a woman who is very closed off. She has a lot of regrets. And here's this Jimmy Smits character who is basically he's trying to tear down that wall. He just won't stop. And eventually she sort of says, okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I just like that a lot. And Naomi Watts is very good too. And the film, it's very good.
Yeah.
It's very good. Now my next film, which I have a feeling, Wade is not going to like my next pick. My next
it's
pick,
more than a feeling, but carry on.
More than a feeling. They should write a song. They can name it. It can be sung by Chicago.
What?
What?
Right.
Okay, so my next pick is Black Swan. Black Swan is probably my #1 film of the year. And in the... Wade's already laughing. Here's why I love Black Swan. Now, in case you don't know, hopefully you have already seen it. Natalie Portman plays a ballerina who was asked to star in a very unique production of a very unique production of Swan Lake. And the reason it's unique is because the white swan and the black swan, usually played by two different ballerinas, will be played by the same ballerina, played by Natalie Portman. Now, Vincent Cassel, who plays the director of this ballet company, he is happy giving the white swan part to Natalie Portman because she's so virginal and pure and white. However, he doesn't think that she has what it takes to play the black swan, who of course is very dark. So in order to get to that place where Natalie Portman's character can play both the white swan and the darker black swan, is to go to these very dark places, and she does know that she can get there. But Mila Kunis, who's actually very good, I never thought I'd say that in a film like this, but she's pretty good. She plays a fellow ballerina who starts to push the Natalie Portman character into the dark side, and she starts to tap into that, and she starts to go where she needs to go to give that perfect performance. And what I loved about the film is how Darren Aronofsky is able to externalize everything that she's thinking in her head. It's funny, there's two films that I liked a lot. One is Black Swan. The other one is 127 Hours. And 127 Hours, which didn't make either of our lists, although I liked it a lot, what Black Swan and 127 Hours have in common is that they both live in the heads of their main characters. They don't necessarily live in the outside world. They live in the heads of their characters, and they're all building up to something. In 127 Hours, the James Franco character is building towards amputating his arm to get out of trouble, and here Natalie Portman is building towards where she needs to go in order to give this perfect performance, and what an artist needs to sacrifice in order to be the artist they want to be. And I really, really liked it. When it was over, I felt completely worked, and it was one of my favorite films of the year. In fact, it probably was my favorite film of the year. Wade, why'd you hate it? Go. Hater.
You know,
hater.
I think you identified why I didn't care for this movie and 127 Hours, because that living inside the head of a character thing, I just don't think it ever really works. This was like Repulsion meets The Turning Point for me, and I like both of those movies better than this one. It's really a horror film. And anytime you start getting those evil doppelganger moments where people see themselves looking back at them with like an evil look, I just laugh. It just never works for me. It just silly. She's being haunted by herself, and it's like, could we be any more obvious with the metaphor? I just wish it didn't have all of those kind of spooky boo moments and those, you know, it didn't need that. If it were a movie about a dancer's anxieties, and if it had a little bit more of the politics, the real politics of the ballet, in the way that we kind of get some of those, say, in Fame or even in The Turning Point, I think I might have been more with it. But I think Aronofsky is still not a mature filmmaker. I think he's still much more interested in creating visceral impact than he is in necessarily moving people emotionally, and I think he needs to cross that line.
Well, I think maybe if you had seen more of the Barbara Hershey character. Now, Barbara Hershey plays Natalie Portman's mother, and I like this performance. And actually, Barbara Hershey got zero love from LAFCA. I was very surprised about that. She plays the mother who's very domineering. Essentially, she had to give up ballet at a young age because she had Natalie Portman as her daughter. And so there's a certain amount of bitterness and regret there, and almost like your typical, soccer dad, the Barbara Hershey character winds up pushing Natalie Portman to be a ballet dancer and to be as good as she can be. And some of that is to make up for her own shortfalls because she had to give up her career in order to have a baby. So you do get that mother-daughter dynamic there. And which I thought maybe if they would have pushed that more, you might have enjoyed the film a little bit more, because at least there's some mother-daughter dynamic.
It's just the horror film stuff threw me off. As soon as I realized it was going to be one of those movies about people that see others walk by, and then we were going to get the zhuzh sound effects, I couldn't hang with it. J-Mac, don't encourage him.
I found it funny.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. All right, so look, that's our first disagreement on the best of 2010. By the way, we also have a worst of 2010, so check that out too.
Oh yeah.
Now that'll be fun.
Oh, that'll be good times.
Because there's nothing we love to do more than hate.
Oh.
All right, so Black Swan, we disagree on that. Now, Wade, what is your next film?
Next film is The Way Back. Now, this is something of a fiasco. The Way Back was directed by Peter Weir. This is an enormously expensive period epic based on the book The Long Walk, which is it's a true incident that over time was revealed to be a little bit less true than it actually was, but it's still substantially true. I won't get into the politics of the story. But essentially what happened was that in 1940, a group of men who were in a prisoner of war camp, a Soviet gulag, managed to escape which already in itself is unheard of. And on top of that, you know, even if you could escape from a Soviet gulag, good luck. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? You're surrounded by snow and wilderness and forests and animals and hostile soldiers, and eventually you're either going to die by human hands or by natural means. These guys in 1940 escaped from the gulag and launched onto an unbelievable survival trek, whereby they, many months later, they emerged in India out of the Himalayas. The most incredible survival story, perhaps, of all time. Peter Weir is one of the all-time great filmmakers, great big filmmakers ever. I mean, he's made films from Witness to The Mosquito Coast, Picnic at Hanging Rock, The Truman Show, you name it. He has made some of the greatest films of all time. And this is the first film in decades that he has made that has not received a studio release. It was independently financed. And it was supposed to be at the Toronto Film Festival, didn't show up there. Everyone thought it was going to make the festival rounds next year in anticipation of an Oscar run, perhaps in late 2011, when a major distributor picked it up. Suddenly, it doesn't show up at any festivals, and it's being released by Newmarket, who only released one other film since the departure of Bob Burney years ago, which was Agora earlier this year, another big-budget film that barely made any money in the United States. So the question is, what happened to this film in terms of its distribution? No one really knows. But it's being released with very little money at the end of the year. It's not getting a major release. It goes into wider release in January. If you can find it, please see it. It's an old-fashioned survival epic. It stars Ed Harris, Colin Farrell, Saoirse Ronan, and it's just magnificent. You literally are on this incredible journey of survival with these characters, and you grow to love them, you grow to understand them, and it really puts you through the ringer. And it's a tremendous movie.
Well, much like Mother and Child, you like this a lot more than I did. I thought the movie was beautifully shot. And I thought that the performances were fine. What my issue was is that I don't know that it necessarily broke out any more than other survival films of its type. It's a bunch of guys, they walk around, they get threatened, there's some desert, someone dies, everyone's real thirsty, they find some water just in time, they're real hungry, eat an insect, and then they're rescued. I mean, they're all the same. You know what I mean? And,
I think this is the best of the lot.
And the funny thing is that you spend over 2 hours with these people, but I don't really feel I know them. You know, I don't feel like, considering all they do for like 6 months is walk. They don't talk a lot about themselves. In fact, Ed Harris in the film
is adamant about saying nothing about himself.
He will not tell anybody his first name.
Yeah.
So already now you learn a little bit about him, about his son and what happened.
Colin Farrell with the tattoos and the whole history of Russia on his body.
That's true.
It's a great character.
It's a good character. He winds up leaving the film, a little too early, but still, like the film, beautifully shot. I'm so glad Peter Weir is back. I was a huge fan of Master and Commander, which was his last film, and of course, who's not a huge fan of Peter Weir generally. Ultimately, I thought I really expected richer, more interesting characters, and even if you remove the vistas from it and how beautifully the vistas were shot, sometimes the way his films are shot are they're so interesting. You know, he doesn't just go for the grand vistas. If you look at Picnic at Hanging Rock, how almost dreamy it was. Yeah. You know, and some of what he does.
That shot of the girls disappearing around the rock in slow motion, it just haunts.
It does. And you know what? I felt as if maybe as they went farther and farther into their journey, there'd be some more of that. But in the end, I just felt, you know, all these shots are the same. It's a shot here's the shot. It's a shot in the desert. Camera's down low, like this, and then somebody's foot comes, and then as their foot comes, another guy's foot comes, and another guy, and then they start to walk and recede into the horizon.
I love it.
It's all the same.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's
old-fashioned.
It is old-fashioned, but I was hoping for something a little more singular in style and approach from Peter Weir.
Well, we haven't had a movie like this in years.
That is true. And again, thank goodness Peter Weir's back.
Thank goodness.
So, my next film, and I don't know what Wade thinks of this film.
Interesting.
Not really, but we'll pretend it is because we want people to watch the show. What I'm saying is, Another Year was one of my favorite films of 2010. Now, Another Year is the new Mike Leigh film, and I'm a huge, huge fan of Mike Leigh. And the film is essentially a year in the life of a family, and Jim Broadbent, who is a Mike Leigh regular, who won an Oscar years ago. He's a Mike Leigh regular. He is the patriarch of this family. who includes the loving wife, the unmarried 30-something son, and the woman who just steals the movie is Leslie Manville.
Another Mike Leigh regular.
Another Mike Leigh regular who plays a friend of Jim Broadbent's wife. And the reason why Leslie Manville runs away with this film is because she is so sad and so lonely that she starts to sort of latch on to this family just for comfort, because she doesn't have a husband and she doesn't have a boyfriend and she doesn't really have a family. And she comes in and out of this family, and there are heartbreaking moments in the film when the family starts to kind of reject her because they don't want her coming around all the time. And that's sort of towards the end of the film. And I just loved how over the course of this year, characters came and they went and they grew, and you got to know them and you got to feel sorry for them. And I just thought it was just such a character-rich, interesting film, which Mike Leigh, he makes films in a very interesting way, which is that he workshops very slight scripts, but he workshops them with the actors. So by the time they're done workshopping it and working through the characters and working together, Mike Leigh and the actors, you've got yourself a really full-bodied character that all the actors can completely inhabit. He does that all the time, and he does that very well here. I just thought this movie was just terrific.
Love it. I love it. I love this movie. Yeah. I love this film. In fact, I've seen this twice.
What?
It's the only one of all the films that we're talking about today that I actually have seen twice. No, I think it's a terrific movie. I think Leslie Manville is just wonderful. I love the workshopping thing. Really, really, really pays off in certain ones of his films. Now, there are other films of Mike Leigh's that I'm not so fond of, like Naked. I don't like in the least. I just think it's a horrible movie. Topsy-Turvy, I'm kind of iffy on.
Well, Topsy-Turvy was the first, he was nominated for a director Oscar for that.
Yeah, and I'm not that huge a fan. I think that movie drags on a bit. Sometimes his movies can be a little flabby in the middle, but Secrets and Lies and, good grief, Sally Hawkins just a few years ago.
Happy-Go-Lucky.
In Happy-Go-Lucky was amazing. When it works it just beautifully. And here I think it's just a wonderful film. Jim Broadbent has never been so natural or so affecting. He usually plays characters that are a little bit grandiose, a little bit puffed up, whether in a good way or a bad way. And you think of him in things like Brazil, where was the first thing I think a lot of us saw him in as the plastic surgeon, or even as the showmaster in Moulin Rouge. He tends to be very grandiose, and here he's just a guy. He's a geologist, and there's something so lovable and accessible about him. I think the film is great. That little red car.
The little red car.
The little red car.
You will know what we mean when you go see the film.
You got to see it. It's wonderful. It's just wonderful.
All right, Wade, what's next?
Next for me is Rabbit Hole, which for people who are Broadway theater goers, you will know Rabbit Hole was a very successful Broadway play that won a Tony Award for Best Actress for Cynthia Nixon. Now, Cynthia Nixon, despite all of her Sex and the City success, did not get to play in the movie because she was usurped by Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman and Aaron Eckhart star in the film, which was directed by John Cameron Mitchell. John Cameron Mitchell, who first broke out as a filmmaker with Hedwig and the Angry Inch as the star and co-writer and director of that film, who did an unbelievable job, and then followed it up with the moderately interesting Short Bus that really didn't go anywhere. Now, John Cameron Mitchell goes into a much more conventional filmmaker direction here. This is not a daring Fassbinder-inspired tour de force like you had with Hedwig. This is a straight-up drama. And it doesn't take any huge risks except in the emotional department. This is a story of two people, a husband and wife, who have lost their child in an accident. And it is about the grief that infects their relationship and the things that they can say and the things they can't say to each other, and how they both struggle day in and day out to keep their lives together. It is profound and affecting in many, many ways. We've all seen movies about grief. We've all seen movies like the amazing Nanni Moretti Italian film that won the Cannes Film Festival, The Son's Room, which is about a family dealing with the loss of a child as well. Another great film. But there's something about this movie that I just found much, much more deeply affecting than any that I've seen before. Nicole Kidman has not moved me this much, I don't think, in any performance ever. And there is one moment in the film, late in the film, where you sort of experience a moment that is talked about. And I won't say anything else about it, but it is virtuoso filmmaking to the nth degree, because you've had this moment built up in your head, and to have it then executed so much more devastatingly powerfully than you've even been able to build it up in your head is really quite an achievement.
I like this film a lot, and I didn't expect to. And what I loved about it is that if you take everything you think the film is, you throw it away.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there is just something, the film sort of exists in this very sort of quiet, almost limbo place, which is where this family is. And what is great about it is that the film doesn't start with the family at the beginning of their grief. It sort of begins with the family sort of in mid-grief and hoping to come out of it. So you're at a different place in their grieving process. Aaron Eckhart, who plays the husband, and Nicole Kidman are going to, they go to a grief counseling group sessions. Yeah. And one of them likes going, one of them doesn't like going, and Nicole Kidman wants to have a connection with the boy who wound up killing their son. And you find yourself really appreciating what the director doesn't do. You know, there's no histrionics. You know, it's just a story of a husband and wife trying to see the other side, trying to imagine a normal day, you know. And I just really loved how he approached it. And it's funny because he could be kind of a flamboyant director, you know, short bus and Hedwig and he's got all sorts of stuff going on. But here he
tones it down.
He totally tones it down. And everybody tones it down. I mean, yes, there's emotion in it and there's some crying.
But so much of it is what the actors don't say and what the characters don't say and what you want them to say. And Sandra Oh, we should point out, is really good in this. Sandra Oh, who hasn't really had much of a feature career since she sort of took on television with Grey's Anatomy, but you know, she had an Oscar nomination for Sideways, and she is tremendous here as another one of the mothers in this this grief counseling group. And
I think for myself, I'm afraid that when you think Nicole Kidman, you think of the gossip and the Botox and whatever.
Oh, she's so good.
Throw that all away. I mean, they're very, very good. And you know what? Again, it's a testament to the director that he was able to just tone everything down.
He locks everybody in a really good way.
He locks everybody in a great way, in a way that, again, is not overly dramatic. Yep. It's not some Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf thing where Elizabeth Taylor is breaking down flamboyantly, you know, as great as that film is. It's just not about that. And I really, really appreciated it, and it's just a terrific film.
I agree.
Now, Wade, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you take this one.
Okay.
Because you like this one a lot.
I love this film.
I know. Just talk about it. Get it over with.
Made in Dagenham, another Sony Classics release. I don't know why they held this for late in the year and they kind of screwed up with Mother and Child, which I think is much more of a typical awards film. Made in Dagenham is actually much more commercial. This is a British film, originally called Dagenham Girls for its UK release, since they understand this whole story. This actually is, it's about 40-some years ago that there was a Ford factory in England, and the women there, who were a very small percentage of the workforce, who really all they did was stitch the upholstery, they decided they didn't like the idea that they weren't getting equal pay with the men, which is something that was happening in a lot of other factories, a lot of, you know, General Motors factories and other auto factories. So they went on strike, and it is about how that strike changed pay scales and altered the face of the labor movement in the UK. Sally Hawkins, who we talked about earlier as being a Mike Leigh regular from Happy Go Lucky, plays the woman who basically takes this on. She becomes the leader of the strike. And this film is directed by Nigel Cole, who previously did Calendar Girls, which was a little bit of a female knockoff of The Full Monty. And you get the same kind of inspirational thing here. It has very much, I'm going to say, that formulaic feel, that inspirational feel of the underdogs who are fighting for some kind of an achievement, and the little shaggy dogs get to pull it off against the big mighty corporate powers that be. It is very much a formulaic structure that we've been accustomed to in other films, but here all of the familiar just fades away because Sally Hawkins is so good, Cole's direction is so naturalistic, and the recreation of the period is beautiful. The art direction is great, the period cars are wonderful, and Bob Hoskins knocks it out of the park in a wonderful supporting role as one of the managers at the auto plant who is very, very sympathetic toward the women and who sometimes kind of runs interference between management and the women to sort of make things favor the women. I just had so much fun with this movie. I was with it the whole way, completely emotionally invested, and even though it is somewhat formulaic in certain respects, it was the acting and the direction and the recreation of period that just carried me along.
Wade, you ignorant slut.
Ah,
Waiting for that.
What? Was I that obvious?
Wasn't that called
Something else in Italy? I believe there was a different
Oh,
name for the
yes.
movie. I think
Hey.
J-Mac has it in the TriCaster.
Does he?
What
The
do they call
the
Maiden
Italian
Dagenham?
poster.
What do they call Maiden Dagenham in Italy, J-Mac?
If you vamp for a second, I certainly can tell you for sure.
You know,
Italy is
there's
shaped like a boot.
yes.
Right.
No, there's when they're striking,
Here we go.
obviously.
Here it comes.
There we go.
Oh, it's coming.
This is the
Are you
Italian
ready?
poster.
And by the way,
That's
that's not a
great.
joke.
No, that's the actual
leave that up for a
poster from
second.
Italy, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That's
of odd.
funny.
Well, the reason that
Lost in
actually,
translation.
although that is embarrassing for all Italians involved, that it does have a purpose in the film, but it really has, the movie has nothing to do with sex or the fact that women want or don't want sex, but there is a strike sign that says
Yeah.
we want sex. Wade, you said it right. It's formulaic. It's too formulaic for me. I just felt like the movie, although I liked it fine. I liked it the same way I like Calendar Girls, same way I like Full Monty. You know, it's just a formulaic, rather pat sort of movie.
You're just not in touch with your female side.
And you know, no, thank God. for
Yeah,
that, by the way,
that's what it is.
And
He doesn't want sex. What?
that's not what my poster says. What that poster says.
Yes.
My
We?
poster says yes. You know what? Sally Hawkins is terrific. I also really like the husband.
Yeah,
I played the husband.
He's
Very
great.
good too.
He's great. He's been in a number of things, and he's kind of one of those journeyman British character actors who just shows up with a South London Cockney accent and kind of looks sad and empathetic, and but he's great at it, you know.
But he's good, and you know
He's
Bob
really good.
Hoskins also terrific. But it just felt like another formulaic, inspirational thing. I don't know what it gave me that was different. Or I don't know how that story was told exactly how that story should be told. In
Yes.
every inspirational way, you
It's-
can tell that story.
But you
That's
know what?
it.
It's just a notch away from. I mean, and maybe I just respond more to British films that have that. But you know, it's like a notch away from Billy Elliot, which is one of the great films of the decade for me. Love it. Love it.
What's wrong with him?
Love it.
Cancel the internet. Okay, so
Yes.
here's the thing. Now, we've been building up to this moment, but first, we're going to recap the ones that we talked about.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, don't forget to check out our worst of 2010.
Oh, so much
on
fun.
YouTube.
So much
Up
fun.
on
YouTube, on Blip, on
Blip,
Roku,
make up,
TiVo.
Just make up nouns. Fling, flang, blommen, smeglies, moulins. It's all there. Social Network, I loved you.
Like.
Ajami, I really, really, really liked a lot.
Love it.
Witcher's Bone, I loved.
Love it.
Mother and Child, I liked a lot.
Love it.
Black Swan, I love.
Stupid.
Way Back was fine.
Wicked awesome.
Another Year was great.
Brilliant.
Rabbit Hole was just really terrific, surprisingly good.
Awesome.
Maiden Dagenham, formulaic.
Terrific.
That leads us to.
Really need ratings on these things. Awesome, good, great, terrific.
Exactly. That leads us to the one film that we both agree equally
Yes.
is fantastic.
Wait,
Amazing.
Chat room is chat room's taking. The
Chat room is taking some guesses.
Oh,
They're
are
saying
they?
you haven't said Toy Story 3.
Okay.
You haven't said Inception. Somebody mentioned, I think Elaine mentioned The Town.
Uh-huh.
So here's some you haven't mentioned.
Wait, hang on, hang on for a second. Hang on, because we can
We're
talk
coming to
briefly.
number one.
Wait. Should we talk about the one
Yeah,
that's
sure.
not?
Yeah, talk about the ones it's not because people are asking
So go.
in the chat room
Inception,
live right
Toy
now.
Story 3.
Inception, Toy Story 3.
I'm not saying whether these are it or not, but
Right.
give me a couple that people think it might be.
Inception, Toy Story 3, Kick-Ass, which we know you guys liked in your review.
Right? There was another one you had before
The Town?
3.
The Town.
The Town.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the ones people keep mentioning.
Okay, so
interesting.
we're gonna we will talk about these, which may include the one we like the best or may not. So as we mentioned them, they're not the one
Yes.
that we love the most. So let's start with one of the ones that
Let Me In, somebody wants to know,
let me in.
which we know we had a whole writing we're kind of
Okay.
responsible for that coming out.
Yeah.
By the way,
We had a writing campaign from Stupid for Movies for that.
for every movie you mention, the show gets another 3 minutes longer.
All right, so go ahead, just really quick. You got like 2 minutes to cover those movies. Were those included?
Okay, every time we say one of these movies, it means it's not included because we're building up to the number
best
one.
movie
Here
of
we
the year.
go. Mike, shut up. Here we go. Let Me In. Not it, but I like the movie a lot.
I love the movie, but it's not in.
That's right.
No.
Let's see. Kick-Ass. Liked it a lot. I love the anti-PC of it.
Oh, I love that movie, but that's not it either.
Oh, let's see, Wade. What else is it not?
It's not The Town.
Oh, The Town. Here's the thing. I
which
like The
bored me.
Town, but if you really break The Town down to its essence, it is completely unbelievable. Well mounted, well done, really well shot. But if
it's
you really
fine.
think that the guy who robs the bank falls for the good, not going to happen.
It's silly. It just
And now
really
we're
goes
coming
off
up
the
to-
rails.
Hang on, let me see, Wade. Could it be, but maybe not? Inception?
No, definitely not, because I don't like Inception.
Oh, what?
I didn't like Inception.
I like, you know what? Here's the thing.
Dreams within dreams where there's like snow, and it doesn't work.
It's too smart for Wade.
No.
I watched it. I liked it a
The
lot. I bought the Blu-ray and watched it again. And you know what? If you watch it the second time, it's better.
Relationship
borrow the Blu-ray?
doesn't work.
No. Okay.
Don't care for the relationship.
Okay,
Doesn't
so
There we
it's
go.
gotta be Toy Story 3
that
is what
means
people
it's got to
think it
be
is.
Toy Story 3.
No, it isn't.
It is
no,
not.
no.
Although
it's
Toy
not.
Story 3 did win the Best Animated Film of the Year from the LA Film Critics.
Yeah, but I prefer The Illusionist, and I actually prefer Tangled.
I like Tangled a lot, and I love The
Yeah.
Illusionist. That's
Which
just
none of those
terrific.
were on your list either.
It is none of those, Wade. So here's the thing. Let's circle it, Wade. Tell the people what it is. What's our favorite film of 2010? Go.
The King's Speech.
Woo! Yeah!
The King's Speech.
That's it, The King's Speech.
Wade, why do you love The King's Speech?
You know what? The King's Speech is just a great old-fashioned classic Oscar drama. And here's what's great about The King's Speech. The King's Speech is the story of King George, who is the father of the current Queen Elizabeth, and how he overcame a stuttering impediment to actually become King of England. Now, anybody who knows about the succession drama by which he became king, he had an older brother who was supposed to become king. So there's a very interesting drama surrounding that as well, and whether or not he really is ready to become king and so forth and so on. What's great about this is it kind of splits the difference between The Miracle Worker and Pygmalion, or My Fair Lady, both of which are about amazing teachers who bring someone from one place to another place, whether or not it's bringing Eliza Doolittle to a point where she can speak English properly, or whether it's bringing Helen Keller to the point where she can even communicate at all. You're talking about two amazing teachers, and Geoffrey Rush plays that amazing teacher here. Geoffrey Rush is the Australian who in real life really did help King George overcome a speech impediment so that he could be heard on radio, which at the time the movie takes place, kind of on the eve of World War II, is an important thing. He needs to inspire the people on radio. People have never heard the king really on a regular basis before, and now the guy who's going to be king has to have the voice to inspire them, to lead them. And Helena Bonham Carter as his wife, so many other great performances here. This is just a tremendous, wonderful character study. The scenes where Colin Firth as King George and Geoffrey Rush as his teacher, where they clash, where they embrace, the friendship, the rivalry. It is an amazing tour de force. Two great actors who play off of each other as well as you will ever see in any movie ever. It's a delight. It's beautifully written, excellent direction from Tom Hooper, who's kind of an unknown at the moment, even though he's done a number of big films, including the John Adams miniseries. But I think this film is it fires on all cylinders, and it's really well shot, and an amazing score by Alexander Desplat.
I agree. I love this film. You know what? It is a very strange amalgam that you don't get a lot, which is a crowd-pleasing character study.
Yeah.
You know, again, it is just straight down the middle, great classical filmmaking. And what is terrific about it, as you said, is that it takes place in this very interesting time that I don't think a lot of people had considered, which was before radio, nobody heard
The King.
the king.
No.
Nobody knew what he sounded like. So now here comes radio, and in the film you get Colin Firth's character. His father does know how to speak on the radio.
Yeah.
You know, and so once Colin Firth has to speak on the radio, and he has to inspire his countrymen, and it's starting to get into World War II, and he has this horrible stutter. You can't do that.
No.
You've got to be able to speak on the radio. And so he goes to Geoffrey Rush, who plays this Australian therapist, and the scenes between the two of them are just fantastic. Rush is just delightful, and the tactics he uses in order to get Colin Firth to lose his stutter, a lot of them are very funny, and there's just great scenes in there. Hooper does some very interesting blocking of the characters. He does some very interesting shot composition where you'll have, if the screen is like this, he'll put the character here,
Yeah.
almost like awkwardly in the corner, because what he's trying to do is he's trying to isolate the character and
Yeah.
stick them in a corner, almost not only in a visual sense, but also in an emotional sense. And he does that a lot in the film, and I really appreciated that. And the production design is very good.
It's really well thought out. What's interesting, too, not to get a little too film schooly about it, but he uses lenses that are much wider than you would normally use in just a straightforward drama of this sort. They almost verge at times on Stanley Kubrick wide. You know, Kubrick used a lot of wide-angle lenses in films like in The Shining, he uses them, and certainly in Clockwork Orange goes, you know, to accentuate things, moments that are weird, bizarre, a little bit more detached. And you get some very unusual photography in this that really kind of creates a very different sense of England at this point in time. And we've all seen, or certainly some of us have seen, so many movies about Edwardian England. Oh my gosh, Edwardian England in the BBC and in movies. And it's almost become a cliche. It's become an upstairs, downstairs masterpiece theater cliche of itself. And what he's done here is he's shot it in such a way that it almost reinvigorates that period. It reinvents it in a whole new visual sense. And I felt as though I was experiencing that period of time for the first time.
Well, also, you know, when you were speaking, I thought of Shakespeare in Love. And the reason why I thought of Shakespeare in Love is only because of this. When you walked into that film, you didn't expect it to be fun.
True.
It's a great, you know, that was a terrific film. I don't know if it was a great film, but it's a terrific film that wound up being fun, but not to the detriment of the seriousness of its intent and the greatness of the script and the performances. This is the same way. You'll go into this film.
Jeffrey Rush in that one too.
Yeah. But you'll go into the King's Speech and you will have fun. But again, it will not be to the detriment of the film's effect and the craftsmanship that went into it. So it's a very unique film in that sense. And I really thought it was just terrific. And Jeffrey Rush, I just thought he was great. I don't know why he came in runner-up at the LA Film Critics Association.
Well, a lot of people love to profit.
Why, huh?
People love to profit in our group.
But A Prophet was a terrific film too. But The King's Speech to Wade and I is the best film.
Yeah.
It's the one that, let's put it this way. Although I like Black Swan a lot. This loser didn't like Black Swan. But when we had to come up with a film that we both
King's Speech.
loved equally the most.
Yeah, King's Speech.
King's Speech.
I just think back on it, and it has so many of those moments that we used to get in films in the 80s. You know, the 80s had a lot of great movies that were crowd pleasers, too. Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know, is another example where you know it's a great film, but it still has those moments of exhilaration where it just gets you, and the script sets you up, and it pays it off, and your heart soars, and maybe your eyes well up a little bit, and it just knows how to really work your emotions. And we don't get those kinds of movies much more. Everything is so mechanical now. It doesn't kind of get those high emotions out of you. And there are at least, I'd say, 8, 9, 10 moments in this movie where your heart just soars. And it's wonderful, and it's just so honest and so genuine, and darn it, Firth and Rush are just so amazing together.
Every scene they have together is like magic. It's so much fun to watch.
It is.
And it's so interesting, the tactics he uses.
I'm envious of Tom Hooper to have actually been on the set and witnessed those moments and know that you just have movie gold right there. You don't even need to see the dailies. You don't need to know anything more than the fact that you just witnessed movie gold.
That's right.
It's going to work.
The production design was great. You know, Jeffrey Rush's character's office.
Yeah.
You know, so dingy. It seems very just dark,
good,
and you know, like how could this guy be good when his office looks like that? Turns out that's part of the plan.
Yeah.
And it's just terrific. So, all right. So here's the thing, Wade. Here's what we'll do before we say sayonara to our best of 2010. And by the way, don't forget to watch our worst of.
Oh.
So I'm now there. Now, as you know, there are 10 Oscar nominees for Best Picture now.
Yes.
Which hopefully that's not starting to enter the fabric of the Oscars. I want to get rid of that. I'm going to name each of these films. You tell me whether you think they'll be nominated for Best Picture.
Okay.
Social Network, yes.
Yes.
Ajami?
No.
Winter's Bone?
Yes.
Really? You think Winter's Bone
Yep,
will make it?
I do.
Mother and Child?
No.
No. Black Swan?
Yes.
Yes. Way Back?
Nope.
No. Another Year?
Long shot.
I'm going to say no. Rabbit Hole?
Probably
no.
not.
No.
It'll get some acting awards, acting nominations.
Made in Dagenham?
Not a chance.
Not a chance. And King's Speech?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Lock.
There you go.
Well, of course, we are going to do an Oscar special.
Yes,
So
we
look
will.
out for that in February. Wait, when are the Oscars now? They're February, right? No,
They are in the middle of February, or the end of February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so that is our best of 2010 show. Wade, here's the thing. It was not a very good year for movies, but if you really want to pick the cream of the crop, there is good stuff out there. There really is.
I'm going to go and say this was, honestly, I think 2010 was far and away the worst year in movie history. I really do.
Wow.
Honestly, I do. I think 2010 was the worst year in movie history, 2009 was the second worst, and 2006 was the third worst. We are in a very, very bad period. I think movies right now are horrible on average. But there are still good movies being made, and you know, go and see those movies. Don't see the bad ones, and send a message to the people who make them that they need to make good movies, not bad movies.
All right, well said. I can't end it any better than that, Wade. Thank you very much for watching our best of 2010. Don't forget to watch our worst of 2010, and don't forget our usual Stupid for Movies show is on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Wade, what do you say? We saying goodnight?
Good night.
Good night.